One of the most impressive optical instruments is the eye. The human eye is a particular example. Okay, the eye has two major lenses. What we call the cornea, that's the outside of the eye, and what we call the lens. These, along the vitreous media inside the eye, is going to dictate how we can get an image formed on the back side of the eye, on what we call the retina. Whenever an image is formed on the retina, the cells on the retina are going to be excited, sending a signal to our brain through the optic nerve, and that's the way we perceive vision. An amazing thing with our eye is that the lens of the eye kind of very fast, almost instantaneously, accommodates to allow us to see objects that are nearby and objects that are far away. It does that by changing its shape. See here, in looking at close-by objects, it looks much fatter, smaller radii of curvature, smaller focal length, and when looking at distant objects, it looks thinner, higher radii of curvature, larger focal length. In all cases, the eye does its utmost job to form an image on the back of the eye, on the retina. Now, one of the things that we have, this is what's called the dark spot. We don't want the image to be formed on the macula, which is where the optic nerve ends. Another thing that plays a big role in our vision is the iris and how it dictates the size of our pupil. By making our pupil smaller or larger, it's going to control the amount of light that's going to go in. So if there is a lot of light making vision impaired because of saturation due to the amount of light, the iris is going to make the pupil smaller, reducing the amount of light and enabling us to see better. When it is dark, like in the evening, and there is not enough light reflected off objects that are surrounding us, then we need more light to form images in our eye, and the iris opens up the pupil to allow more light to come in. Now, another picture of the eye. You know, in the first picture I had some details, but even this one does not have all the details that are involved. And I'm not going to get into that. The ones among you who take anatomy are going to learn a lot more about this than I do know. One thing I want to point out, though, there are two liquids inside the eye, one in what's called the anterior chamber and aqueous humor, and then the other one is what we call the vitreous humor, and that's inside. You notice we have the zonular fibers, and we have some ciliary muscles, and these are going to dictate the size of the lens, I think, for the ciliary muscles, and the zonular fibers, I believe, I'm not sure about that, but I think they are the ones that work on the iris. Okay, another view, our iris, pupil. Interesting things about the eye. It's one of the first organs to develop when babies are being conceived. An amazing thing. It has about 100 million receptors. That's 200,000 receptors per millimeter squared. That's much, much, much better than the most sensitive camera that you can buy. Orders of magnitudes better. It is sensitive to allow us to see even a single photon. We can see a candle from 12 miles away. This is for the biologists. That's another look of part of the eye. In this case, in this case, it's the retina. This is the top of the retina. This is where the image is formed, and this is how the cells eventually are going to connect to the optic nerve. These are our receptors, our 100 million receptors.